This is a Dakota News Now special report.
And welcome to Dakota News Now here at 6:30. I'm Brian Allen, and we're being joined tonight by Sioux Falls mayoral candidate Greg Jamison. It has been a while since we've talked, so Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. You're seeking the mayorship of the city of Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
I always think it's fascinating to talk with the candidates about why. What prompted you to run for this seat? You've run for mayor before.
Yeah.
You've been a member of the city council before. You're a current state legislator and peer. What about running for mayor this time around caught your attention and made you say, this is something I want to do?
It's the enormous love that I have for the city. Serving in peer, I get a lot of feedback from other legislators around the state who are jealous of Sioux Falls and all the success that we're having. And their kids want to move here, but yet they want to keep their kids out there in rural South Dakota. And there's just so much pride. So I think of it like this. We are the undefeated returning Super Bowl champions, and they need a new head coach for the Super Bowl. I want to be a part of that. There is so much good going on here. The optimism, the future looks so great. I just want to be a part of that. Like you said, I've been a part of it over the years.
Yeah.
And I've seen the city grow as somebody who grew up here. And I'm at a point in my life where I've got a lot of experience and knowledge that I can bring to the mayor's office and make things even go better. I really believe in that, my own abilities and history here, and this just passion I have for this city. I have a lot of family who lives here, so I'm very vested, and I think the future is bright, and I want to be a part of it.
Let's talk about priorities for a second here, Greg. If you do get the job, you probably have a list of things that you want to work on or fix, if we can use that word. As we sit here right now, what is number one on the list? You want to address what?
Number one is public safety. Now, we have a pretty good record of doing a good job with that, but there are still neighborhoods in our city that don't feel as safe as some of the others. And every neighborhood in our city deserves to feel safe like that. The other pieces are our law enforcement officers themselves. Anybody who wears a bulletproof vest to work to make us feel safe deserves the support and resources and pay for them to do their job. So we've just got to take care of that.
When you talk about public safety, and then you mentioned police officers specific, do you have any concerns about fire service here in Sioux Falls? This city is growing like a weed. Do we have enough fire stations, enough firefighters? So
there's an interesting point. The city has really designed and strategically placed fire stations almost mandatorily after a certain number of square footage or miles are created. So they're placed in great strategic locations. That plan is well thought out and well placed, and so yes, we're very good as far as public safety or firefighters go.
How do you view economic policy right now?
So we've had a lot of discussion about this in peer.
Yeah.
You know, the data center stuff coming through, and what is enough to entice somebody to come here. And we're really struggling to find the balance so that we really protect people who are vested in our community already versus luring somebody to come in here and start a new business and maybe even compete with our people who are already here. So it's really a fine line to build that balance. But I know this, if we don't have our foot to the pedal and always trying to go and look for new things, we will start to shrink and we'll start to fail. Other cities you can see have done that. So every chance we can get, we need to analyze it and consider it and look for options and opportunities.
And we'll pick up on that idea of data centers here in the area when we come back here on Dakota News Now. Welcome back to Dakota News Now at 6:30 as we continue our discussion tonight with Sioux Falls mayoral candidate Greg Jamison. We were talking about data centers before we went to the break. The idea of enticing them to help build the economic base. Is there any part of you that says maybe we shouldn't have data centers here? There is a lot of public outcry, it appears, from people worried about water supply, worried about the environment, worried about a myriad of different things, but you're getting a lot of not in my backyard where data centers is concerned. Where are you on that?
I'm okay with data centers. They just probably need to find a better buffering piece between any residential places. There's some here already. There's more that are likely to come. South Dakota has resisted all of that, in the past and general big scale stuff. Mm-hmm. But the pressure is coming, and the incentives that we were intending to offer them to come, we've trimmed down to a point where it says, look, if you want to come here that bad, you're going to have to pay your way. Yeah. And There are limitations that we have on the amount of water that we can, like the previous discussion was, they limited the amount of water that they were going to have access to. So they can't just come in and wreck our water source. And the electricity piece is interesting because the PUC regulates those increases in rates. So if a data center wants to buy that electricity, it doesn't turn into a problem for all the rest of the rate players. So we've learned a ton from all these other states that have been doing it already. So we can take lessons they've learned going forward. So I think we can do it smarter and better than they've done.
Yeah. Smithfield announcing that they're going to move their facility out of the downtown area by Falls Park. They're going to go to the northwest side of town.
Yeah.
That creates an almost once in a generation opportunity to redevelop the land that the plant is on now. What should happen with that land? What do you think?
Well, my crystal ball shows a huge, ginormous Falls Park, a green space that is just uninterrupted with lots of trees, lots of walking trails, other enhancements of the falls, our namesake for their city. But that's just my crystal ball.
Yeah.
But the way I'm going to start it is with a group of others who come together and talk about these big, bold visions that they have. So as a community, we discuss it and figure out options for it. And who knows what could come from that, but I intend to have a whole lot of other people at the table saying, well, you should think about this, or how about this? And then we can do that as a community. That's how I see it.
How do you have, and it happens all the time, it's not impossible, but with a project like this, how do you go about formulating what the future should hold through committee? Because you know as well as I do, the more people you invite to the table, the more you're going to have to deal with, the more you're going to have to parse through.
Yeah, it's sometimes difficult to make decisions by committee.
Yeah.
I get that. But having everybody a chance at the table, there'll be a point where we'll break it down to some decisions and directions that we'll have to take a focus on. Connectivity through other streets, how important is that? Is there some piece that we're missing? Other land that's nearby that we could incorporate. Well, what does that do? So there'll be a point where some of the leadership is going to have to come in and say, okay, those are great ideas, but we've got to get probably back to this area. What I really want to have happen is this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for everybody to give some input, some public open meetings, and have some discussions about it. I'm not particularly interested in just density and building apartments and/or buildings. I really think long-term we could benefit from having a green space that is so protected that it's a sanctuary for us.
And we'll continue our discussion with Sioux Falls mayoral candidate Greg Jamison right after this on Dakota News Now. And welcome back to Dakota News Now as we continue our discussion tonight with Sioux Falls mayoral candidate Greg Jamison. Before we went to break, you mentioned something about high-density living in Sioux Falls, apartments. Do you think Sioux Falls is putting too much of an emphasis on apartment complexes and not enough of an emphasis on individual housing, individual homes?
So what's actually happening is the market is driving it. So if there's a demand and the developers see that they've got an opportunity to make money or to provide what they think is valuable to the buyer or renter, that's driving it. And the single family home is just becoming difficult because those first-time home buyers are challenged by buying a home that they can even afford. And so the builders, for instance, they see it as a problem when they are starting to build some of these homes because nobody can afford them. So they focused on these apartments. So the city really isn't making the focus.
Yeah.
It's the private developers who've decided where they can make money, and there'll be a point where it turns. You have to think almost because there's so many apartment buildings.
Right.
Where are they? So sooner or later, the shift is going to come. And the point for the city is to create new places in ways that builders can build homes at an affordable price.
So everyone is just responding to economic conditions right now.
Oh yeah, they're in charge. The city is, the city's doing our best to plan out and predict where the future is going to go, and we're doing a fine job with that, with a lot of planning. But still, the drivers are the developers and the dollar.
Could the city insert itself and say, hey, home builders, if you build actual homes and not apartments, we can have some type of financial deal, maybe not a TIF or something like that, but something that pushes them in that direction? Or is that dangerous and just let it play out?
So there's a good experiment that's occurring exactly right now. The Nielsen Construction has a development on the northeast part of town, and they created a TIF for them. And they are doing exactly what Sioux Falls needs by building some of those low-cost homes.
Yeah.
You know, they're smaller, closer to each other.
But they're still homes, yeah.
They're still homes, and they're great opportunities for first-time home buyers. But we did a TIF in order to do it. And that's the first time we've done that. So there's a lot of analysis going on about, was it effective, was it appropriate, did it work? From what I can gather, it works. And in the end of the day, you need a builder like Nielsen Construction who is willing to take less income than he could do if he did something else. So he, or that company, is really doing a fine job of stewardship to our community. But it's a great example.
I asked you about the Smithfield move. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the rail yard land in the downtown area. Would that be an appropriate place for the high-density apartments that you would not like to see over at Smithfield? Is that what should be happening in the rail yard area?
So I was on the council when we received that land, and there were all kinds of plans just like this that's coming around as a desired use and development. It really fits with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Housing in downtown, specifically, is really a desirable piece that the developers know and want. Now, the interesting part about that specific spot is that the city owns the land. We're the ones selling it. And if the city is interested in workforce housing and first-time, low-income housing, if you will, what are we doing as a city to plug that in? Say, look, you want to do that? Great. But you got to add some of this piece to fit, because we know it as a city that we need it. But I think in this case, it's kind of left to the market rate. And so it still fits with the overall plan for downtown.
Sioux Falls mayoral candidate Greg Jamison with us tonight. We'll have more of our discussion with him right after this. Welcome back to Dakota News Now. We're talking with Sioux Falls mayoral candidate Greg Jamison tonight. What more does the city need to be doing regarding homelessness?
Ooh. So here's a very serious topic, and recently in the legislature we've uncovered some very serious topics with the prison and property tax things.
Yeah.
So taking homelessness as one of those serious, complicated topics, I'm kind of excited about the opportunity to be a full-time city official and address that topic. And so for me, there's people who are wanting to live that way. They wanted to live by on the cheap. And then there's others who have come through terrible luck, fortune, and found themselves there. We need to separate those groups, essentially, and help those who really want the help and can use it. But those people who are trying to live on the cheap and just like that kind of lifestyle, we need to make it harder for them to live like that, because they're commingling with all the services and everything that the people who really need it are using. And they're just using us, essentially, to live like that. And I want to separate those two. So it probably is going to take a heavy hand, frankly, that we could use and probably need to use in order to address it.
What do you have in mind when it comes to a heavy hand?
Yeah, well, probably that version of separating them. And those individuals that after an interview and a conversation, we can decide, look, you're just using us. You're just getting by on the cheap. You're wrecking it for everybody else. So we know who you are now, and we're going to make it harder for you every time you get arrested, for instance, or something. We've just got to separate those guys who are wrecking it for the others who've come along. So separating them, categorizing them, identifying them as those kinds of people, and probably working that way.
You know, nobody ever wants to call their baby ugly. But when it comes to the city of Sioux Falls, what does the city not do well?
Well, that homelessness, that affordable housing piece, maybe the arts and culture piece. We're pretty good at plowing streets, parks, rec, event center, convention center. We're pretty good,
Yeah.
It's those other little fringe pieces that really aren't in our wheelhouse but are a part of our city. So, that's probably my...
How do you address those when you become mayor? Do you establish committees to review at first, make recommendations to you?
So like for all my years on the city council, it was always decided we were going to end homelessness. That's a pretty high bar.
Yeah.
And so taking a topic like the homelessness issue and putting it in the center of the table And now having the full-time capacity to address it and bring around the people to say, look, we've got to do something better. We've got to do it different. You know, we have a lot of consolidated services down in the same area, and there's a lot of concentration of people who live in that area on the streets. We've got to disrupt it. We've got to work harder. And so the housing piece has been like a slippery fish. You just can't ever figure it out. The market is driving it. You're trying to grab it. And when you think you got it figured out, the economy crashes or something changes. And the developers and builders are the ones who are really driving it. And if we can't make it work for them, we can't force it to happen. So the value has become to those bedroom communities around Sioux Falls in some sense, because they can buy a home there and now they have to drive here, but still they get a home. I think that's the opportunities for smaller communities around Sioux Falls when we're growing. So here's the other piece. If we weren't growing, you would see a lot more affordable housing and workforce housing available.
Right.
But because of the vibrancy that we have going on, that piece is gone. It's just the nature of our great city that's growing.
We'll wrap things up with Sioux Falls mayoral candidate Greg Jamison right after this on Dakota News Now. To Dakota News Now, as we wrap up tonight with Sioux Falls mayoral candidate Greg Jamison, I'm interested to know, what issue are you concerned about that isn't being talked enough about? Is there like a back burner issue that needs to be a front burner issue?
Front burner is a tough place to be, but I would like to have our traffic lights a little better connected and not be sitting at a red light waiting while no cars are coming. I think it's time. We have our smartphones. We can do better with our traffic lights through the city. I'd like to have that worked on.
Sure.
You know, the other pieces is the public input piece at our council meetings. There's a lot of people who are very upset. And I'd really like to trim that and figure it out, how we could make those people better engaged. They come and they're so angry and they feel like they're not getting heard. And so my hope would be to have some sit-down conversations with them and say, okay, what's going on? What do you need? And how about calling me before coming to the council meeting to air your grievances? Let's have this other open communication so we could have a better environment. And I really want to build trust in what we do as a government. And through some of these changes, I think we can, through transparency and accountability with the money we're spending, we can create this trust. So when these difficult decisions on data centers and other TIFs come around, the public can be assured that they can trust us in what we're doing. Of all things, that's one of the biggest things I'd like to see done as a mayor.
Sioux Falls mayoral candidate Greg Jamison spending some time with us tonight. I really do thank you for coming in and talking to us this evening about what's on your mind and what's on your heart that led you to run for mayor this time around.
Thank you.
You bet. Primary election day coming up June 2nd. Be sure to get out there, cast your ballot, and vote. I'm Brian Allen. Good night from Dakota News Now.